Hello everyone, it's the end of the day and I thought I'd make a video diary, just a shout out really, to ask for people's advice because I am a lifelong Range Rover fan. I've never had one before, and I'm particularly struck on the L322. Over the last years, I've done so much research that I've probably got paralysis analysis, like I just can't decide which one to land on. And there are a couple of things happening at the moment which make it a bit more difficult to come to a conclusion. We are in July 2022. There's massive inflation, fuel prices are at all-time highs. So getting a combustion engine just doesn't seem sensible at all. But honestly, like the roar of an engine is so beautiful that I think while I'm still allowed to, I want to enjoy that because I'm almost certain that very soon we won't be allowed to drive anymore. And, you know, from an environmental perspective, I'm not at all a climate denier. We've had crazy weather recently. I actually suffer from asthma, so kind of bringing down pollutants in the atmosphere is more than welcome. I recycle, I do all the things I'm supposed to do. But, and I don't know how I feel about offsetting either, but I did read somewhere recently, because I'm a frequent traveller. Before the pandemic, I travelled very, very often. And it's an integral part of my life. I love it. It doesn't define me, but it certainly keeps me sane. So I love to travel. And my favourite part of the world is northern Italy, around the lakes. Where I know people, I know the area, I've been going there for many years. It's just beautiful, gorgeous, wonderful. And, during the pandemic, like many of us, I got a dog, a beautiful ex-racing rescue greyhound called Jim, Narrabane Jim. Is definitely popular in my neighbourhood, is definitely popular in this house. And I couldn't think of anything worse than putting him in a kennel while I go on holiday. So I won't be doing that. So I do need to get a car in order to drive really to Italy. And I read that, in fact, I did an online calculator and that suggested that the carbon footprint of, traveling on holiday, any distance really in a car, is a lower carbon footprint than flying if there are two or more people in the car. And in this case, there would be two people plus a dog. So the carbon footprint actually would be lower, even for something very polluting. So from that perspective, I mean, it seems okay. But then, and I feel comfortable with that, being as the main reason I'll be using it is to go on holiday. So with that in mind, and the fact that old Range Rovers are now super cheap, you can get a 15-year-old one for a couple of £1,000s. The question is which one, because there is obviously a lot of noise on the internet about how unreliable there are, a lot of first-hand experience about how unreliable there are, but there's also a lot of first-hand experience on how brilliant they are. But I'm unsure because the people who are absolute fanatics about Range Rovers are probably like me. I'm probably going to go ahead and get one regardless of what the sensible choice is. So what I'm appealing to everybody for, everybody who's passionate, everybody who's not, everybody with a sensible head, everybody who's a little bit bonkers, is to kind of give me some advice. Like, let me know, in your opinion, which one is the best one to go for. And I did recently watch something which suggested that if you've got a very small budget, which I have, I don't need it. It's not a daily driver. I get the train into work. I work from home a couple of days a week. I do a lot of walking with the dog. It's not for that purpose. It is literally to go on holiday in comfort and in style. And I read that basically somebody was recommending that, you know, two cars, if you've got a small budget, a 4.2 supercharged between, I think it's like 2005 and 2009. And they're going, it seems like, on Auto Trader and eBay and all the other sites for about £5,000 to £7,000, maybe slightly more, maybe slightly less, but around about that mark. And that feels very cheap for what was originally like a £70,000-£100,000 car, or however much they were, but they were very expensive at the time. It seems like very good value for an old car, and I do know that old cars need to be maintained. Like, you're going to have to feed it cash. It's going to take all my money, and I don't have any money, but all the money I don't have, it's going to take, and I've made peace with that. You know, I feel like I do want to, and I like the idea actually of getting an old, beautiful, classic shape. You know, I'm into design. I love design. Design, art and architecture and fashion, they're my things. Like, that's what I spent all my spare time consuming and reading, some of my daytimes as well. But, you know, that classic design in the car space, you've got the Beetle. My dad was a Beetle fanatic. He, you know, he's a manual engineer by trade, and I remember he's very good with his hands and good at figuring things out. And I just remember when I was younger, him kind of, you know, in our garage, completely stripping down a Beetle to its component parts, polishing, tweaking, preening, and then putting it all back together and respraying it. And, you know, then rolling around in a classic Beetle, basically, while everybody gave it the forks. When you see another Beetle owner, it's the forks. And I think, you know, that probably inspired a passion for many things, but definitely classic design. Like, that Beetle has not changed shape. And even in the new generation Beetles, like, that DNA is still there, and it's probably there because it's beautiful. Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And both of those designs are gorgeous. And, you know, the fact that the Beetle is kind of like, you know, related to the Porsche 911, which is another car with a absolutely gorgeous classic design. I mean, many moons ago, that would have been my favourite car, the car I'd love to have. You know, if the wind had blown a different way, I'd probably be on here kind of like asking, which more affordable 911 can I get? But I can't fit a dog, not a big, you know, 34, 38 kilogram X-Racing Greyhound in a Porsche. So it's not a Porsche. And although I love driving and I do love a sports car, I love the way they handle, the way they move, the way they sound. That's not for me. And it definitely wouldn't be for my partner, who is just not in the same space as me when it comes to like car ownership and driving for the sake of driving. So that would just get vetoed immediately. But the Range Rover is also in that space. It's a beautiful classic shape. You know, all Land Rover products I think are beautiful. In fact, like, I would love a classic Defender, but I don't think they're that comfortable, especially for a long trip. So they're kind of like not in the equation at all. I love the Land Rover, you know, the LR3, beautiful. The LR1, the LR2, gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And I actually love the image they kind of like evoke as well. It's kind of like stealthy, you know, but I do like a bit of stealth, but I also love a bit of, you know, a bit of statement, let's call it. You know, statement signalling. I'm not even sure if that's an expression, and if it isn't, I've just coined it. But I do like to statement signal sometimes, and but in a frugal way. You know, it's like, I'm not like I'm gonna run out and buy a £250,000 top of the range brand new Range Rover, which I am not averse to if I had the money, which I don't at the moment. But you know, it's you know, it's not that sort of thing. It's the fact that it's a you're looking after a piece of heritage, and, you know, feeding that piece of heritage all your money. I guess like it's like buying a grade 2 listed house, you know, which I nearly did actually a few years ago. That would have been financially ruinous, walking past that house and seeing what the present owners are having to do to it consistently. But, you know, it's still a beautiful house, and I'm sure they're loving having no money. And if I'd have bought that house, I probably would have loved having no money as well, because it's, you know, absolutely gorgeous. And a lot of the time, these things are about the way it makes you feel. You know, I'd probably have to get like a side hustle, a little part-time job somewhere to be able to support it. But you do that, don't you? You just kind of like follow your passions and your hobbies. And I feel like a Range Rover, a classic, an old one, this is not a classic, an L322, although I'm definitely buying into the narrative that it's on the cusp of becoming a classic, and I think it's definitely a classical shape. It's absolutely beautiful, is in that space. So I'm definitely rambling on and on, and, you know, appealing to everybody to give me a little bit of advice, like, you know, which Range Rover would you go for? I am really sold on this L322. I lost my train of thought. So the 4.2 petrol supercharged is the cheap option, or the cheaper option of like something, you know, it's got the engine apparently is a really solid unit. It would, you know, probably hopefully just go on and 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 on indefinitely. While the electrics fail and the seats kind of disintegrate, that engine hopefully goes on and on and on. And I like the idea of that. You know, and kind of building a relationship with something. There are lots of things that I can't get rid of in my life and throw away because we have a relationship. And all of those kind of like weather-beaten marks make it even more beautiful and alluring. So I'm comfortable with all of that. It's just which one is not going to give up the ghost very quickly, and which one is going to cost the least amount of money, ideally, to maintain. It's all going to cost a fair whack, probably, but, you know, it could be a case of the best of the bad bunch, but that's what I want to know. What is the best of the bad bunch? And then the other one, which is slightly more money, it's like double the price, and in fact, it could be 3 or 4 times the price for a good version, but it's the 4.4 TD V8, 2009 to 2012, I believe, is the one people suggest of the L322. And, you know, the issue I have with that one is basically the upfront cost, which could be up to £20,000, and I'm not really looking to spend that amount of money. But if it's a sensible option, it might be worth the investment. So I need like advice. And anyway, these two cars, the 4.2 V8 Supercharged, which sounds stunningly beautiful, and it's ULEZ compliant. So for anybody watching this outside the UK, assuming anybody at all is going to watch this, but, you know, ULEZ is like one of the taxes we have here to keep emissions down. And so it's ULEZ compliant, which is like a little bit of a saving if I want to drive into central London. I live on the outskirts of London. I'll probably never drive into central London, but it's nice knowing that you have a car that if you wanted to go in, you know, it wouldn't cost you a gazillion pounds a day. I think it's £20 a day or something, or however much it is, but it is not cheap. And I don't really want to pay that. I don't actually want to drive in central London anyway. It's like a nightmare. But probably by design, and that's totally fine. The transport there is fantastic. It's world class. It's second to very few. So totally comfortable with that. It's literally to take me on vacation 4 times a year with my partner and my dog, and then, you know, to run across the country, across the UK to see family and friends. So dilemma. 4.2 supercharged, or the 2005 to 2009, or the for £5,000 or somewhere in that space, or the 4.4 TD-V8 for about £20,000, 2009 to 2012. That's what I've read are the best value type things at the moment, which probably need the least amount of maintenance and knocking around and stuff. But, you know, maybe somebody else has another suggestion. I'm not really open to ideas of other cars because I've just kind of like done so much research on this. I've gone so deep into it, and it's just something I really want to kind of, you know, look at. So although it wouldn't be used on a frequent basis, it would definitely be, you know, outside my house, and I'd be walking past it every day and looking at it every day. And on the, my way to the train station in the mornings when I go into the office, there's an old, very old Discovery. It's not a Discovery, actually. There's a very old Defender, and the bodywork has seen better days. I'm sure it runs perfectly fine, but it's just gorgeous to look at. Like, every time I walk past it, it just fills me with a bit of joy. So having this L322, which I also love the look of, sitting there, it'd be like a sculpture, actually. It'd be like, you can go to like one of these highbrow West End art galleries and buy a beautiful, Giacometti statue for £100 million or however much they are. I don't know how much they are, but they are very expensive, in the millions. And that's okay, and that's great. And I mean, I'd love one in the garden. I'd look at it every day and I'd get pleasure out of it. But I'd get probably an equal amount of pleasure at looking at an L322. It's sculptural, it's beautiful. So, there are dual purposes to why I'm probably stupidly running headfirst into this decision. But, I want to hear your points of view, and I do want to make something relatively economic within the context of this conversation, an economic decision. And I also want it to last as long as possible. I do understand that the maxim that you have to just kind of like, keep cars going, feed them what they want and maintain them. But some cars are built better than others, and even in the same category. I remember having an old Golf, not a Golf, a Polo. So it was many, many years ago, and it was already like 10 or 12, maybe even 15 years old when I bought it for nothing. But I spent like, let's say it cost me £500 to buy, which is probably about right. I spent probably about £2,500 on it, like maintaining it in 1 year before I just decided to get rid of it. And honestly, I would have kept that car. It's just that it had an issue with the gearbox, and then that cost me a lot of money to fix, and it didn't actually fix the problem. And dodgy garages and stuff like that, I just decided to go with something else. The other thing that makes me really comfortable buying a Land Rover product in general, but particularly the Range Rover, is that I've done so much research, but there's a very good Land Rover specialist, a 15-minute drive from here. And, if it does break down, they're happy for you to kind of like get it towed there, but also they've given me a lot of help in their opinion about, like refining my choice and landing on the Range Rover and the L322. So, I will inevitably... I found this really cathartic, actually. So I think what I'm going to do is definitely make more videos and take you on my journey. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to drive it. I'm going to maintain it. Hopefully it doesn't break down. And I'm going to walk you through this process on my journey. So, I guess I've heard a lot of other people say this. So if you feel like it, smash the subscribe button, like the video. But more importantly, you don't even have to do any of that. But what I would really love is your feedback. Like, what do you recommend I do or buy, and why? And I will take you on this journey with me as I approach the land of L322 ownership, which is fills me with trepidation, but also masses of excitement. So yeah, this is the final call for me before it happens. So yeah, let me know what you think, and I'll if I think of anything in the meantime, and assuming I press the record button, I will keep you all updated. For anybody who leaves a comment, thank you in advance. Really appreciate it, taking the time, and hope you enjoyed the video. More to come.